Okay, looks like we've leveled off a little bit. People still joining, but I'm going to go ahead and kick us off today as we only have an hour together. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us for an hour today for this second of our quarterly stakeholder update webinars of 2024. My name is Hillary Navarro, and I am Verra's Chief Communications Officer, and I'm going to be emceeing us today, making sure that we stay on time and on track during this hour-long webinar. So as a reminder, we are hosting these webinars quarterly throughout all of 2024. We have 2 more slated for this year. There's one scheduled for the end of July and one for the end of October. And registration for those is already open if you are interested in attending. And you can see the link that you need to go to at the bottom of this slide. If you register and for any reason are not able to attend, you will be automatically sent the recording after the webinar concludes, just as a heads up. So on the agenda today, if you move to the next slide, thank you. Our president and interim CEO, Judith Simon, is going to kick things off with a few brief announcements. She'll then give an overview of commitments that were made under our New Era for Verra initiative and the status of those commitments. And then after that, we are going to do something a little different today than in the past. We are going to do a deep dive into 2 specific commitments. And those deep dives are going to be on the VVB performance monitoring system and on the stakeholder support team. And then as always, to close, we're going to open the floor to participant questions, and we will try to answer as many of those as possible in the time we have left. As a reminder, you can type in your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom console at any time, but we will not be answering those until the end. So with that, I will hand the floor over to Judith.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And hello, everyone. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Judith Simon, and I'm excited to be here today to share with our team some of the updates for this second stakeholder update of 2024. It's really hard to believe that it's already the end of April. Like many of you, this has been a very busy year for us, and we're looking forward to giving you some updates and some highlights on what we've been working on. But first, I want to introduce you to Joe Del Orfano. As we've shared before, a key element of our New Era for Verra is our investment and belief in digitalization as a cornerstone for enabling scale while also ensuring quality, ease of use, and market connectivity. Joe joined the Verra team about a month ago as our first ever Chief Technology Officer, and we are so excited that he made that decision. Joe joins us with more than 20 years of senior technology leadership experience, helping drive customer-centric technology strategies at organizations such as REI, Safeco, Total Wine & More, and Cava. As CTO, Joe leads our Verra's technology department, and we are beginning to imagine just the possibilities for how we can leverage technology and data to enable and accelerate climate action and sustainable development. We are so excited about the work that Joe and his team will be leading. So we really welcome Joe and excited to have him as part of the team. Last week, we published a few updates to our VCS program. And this announcement is on the homepage of our website for those that want to read more. But with these updates, we expect to meet all the conditions for full approval under the first phase of CORSIA, and we look forward to the assessment by ICAO, the technical advisory body. At that same time, we also issued several rule amendments to the VCS program to clarify how the program aligns with the core carbon principles that were established by the ICVCM. The ICVCM has announced that they're currently finalizing its assessment of the VCS program, and we expect to hear back from them in the coming weeks. We have every confidence that the VCS program will be assessed as meeting the high integrity criteria set out in its core carbon principles. Okay, so now on to the core of our update. which we are doing quarterly to give you insights to how we are performing against the commitments under the New Era for Verra strategy. And so many of you have followed along with us because you've been attending these webinars, but we defined the New Era for Verra last fall. And within that, we had 3 key priorities. The first is operational excellence. So that is investing and developing the capabilities and infrastructure needed to deliver excellence. I think we're on the next slide. The second one is about our program impact and scientific integrity. This is about our commitment to leverage the latest science and best practices to enhance our VCS program integrity and scale up climate action. And the third is accountability. This is upholding our duty to others, the stakeholders, market, people, and the planet. These 3 priorities remain. So this is what we are focused on and will continue to be our priority in the near term. Under each of these priority areas, we made several commitments and we've been providing updates, and I want to give some more updates for you today. And so let's go to the next slide. This is a table that shows the quick status of our initial commitments. Green on this, if you look at the status column, green means that these projects or initiatives are completed or they're on track. Yellow means that we've experienced some delays or complications, and we would code it red if we had decided to cancel or postpone. We don't have any with that status at this point. We've shared with you kind of in a detailed way what these commitments are, but we're not going to go in depth today like Hillary said. We decided instead to provide a detailed update on the latest achievements in all of these areas on our website, and that was just published. So if you want to go read more about others of these, please feel free to do so. But the bottom line is we remain determined and focused on these highest priorities. This list is not exhaustive, but we believed were the most important things to deliver for us and for the marketplace. And we are maintaining momentum and making strides in all of these areas. I do want to highlight that these are not representative of all of the outputs that we're ultimately aiming for. And they're certainly not representative of the performance we ultimately want to achieve. That's going to take more time, and that's also a priority for us. And we will not stop until we are delivering consistently on all fronts. But for today's webinar, like Hillary said, we decided to do a deep dive into the 2 bolded commitments that you see in this table. And we chose these 2 based on the number of questions and requests for clarification that we get from our stakeholders. The first one is the VBB Performance Monitoring Program. This is a groundbreaking endeavor for Verra, as it is the first time we have created a standardized way to evaluate and report on VBB performance. And even more importantly, to provide clarity for the VBBs on what is expected from them. We are committed to providing this clarity in these scorecards for performance, but also the education and support required to enable the VBB's success as well. The second one is the stakeholder support team. We have heard you. You told us it was too difficult to contact someone at Verra, that emails were not getting responses timely, and it was causing frustrations and delays on your end. So in response, we have created this team primarily focused on answering questions related to projects in the project review process. And Cassio is going to speak to this more in more detail a little bit later. But next, I want to introduce Janice O'Brien. She is going to share more about the VBB program. Janice is our Director of Auditing and Accreditation, and she is the one that has been spearheading this effort. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Janice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. I'm excited to be here today, and this presentation will be focusing mostly on one specific component of Verra's new performance monitoring program, and that component is the VVB performance monitoring scorecards. Before we dive into that, I would like to give a quick introduction and overview of the auditing and accreditation team, which I'll refer to as the ANA team, and the overall performance management program that we've been implementing. The auditing and accreditation team was created in September of 2022 and is responsible for multiple functions that collectively provide oversight of VVB performance. The key components of the performance monitoring program include the VVB performance monitoring system. This is led by Pedro Aparicio. And this is the set of indicators and criteria that Verra has developed and will use to consistently assess individual and collective VVB performance over time. Verra's performance observation audits, which is led by Maria Arririega, is one additional component of the program. In this program, Verra staff will be silent observers of VVB audits during the site visits. Observations from the audits will contribute to some of the indicators and criteria of the VVB scorecards. We also will be developing an accreditation program. Hannah Robinson will lead in that development, implementation, and oversight of accreditation standards that govern Verra's programs, or what we'll call the Verra VVB accreditation program. Building on the existing ISO accreditation body rules, Verra program rules and other oversight activities VVBs must conform to. The accreditation program standards will all form a complete set of Verra-defined auditing, competency, training, and monitoring requirements for validation and verification bodies who audit projects to Verra standards. Another component which is critically important is training. Leo Long oversees all aspects of training related to VVB performance. Examples include training on new program rules, issues Verra may detect that require attention, and this may be from scorecard results, and training also to Verra staff on updates as needed. For example, revision of project review processes that may help VVB performance. And then lastly, an essential component of the overall program is the relationship management with the VVBs and the accreditation bodies that have accredited them to the ISO greenhouse gas standards. So for a successful performance monitoring program, all of these elements need to work together. And that leads to the next question, really, which is why did Verra even decide that we need a performance monitoring program? So Verra determined that they needed a performance monitoring program to be able to track performance and provide assurance on the integrity of Verra projects and the VCUs issued. Because of the rapid growth in demand for VCUs, a new wave of project development took place and many new actors entered the system throughout, whether they be the auditors, the VVBs, or new project proponents. As a result, Verra started to notice some significant variance in the quality of the projects and the audits. To impact change and to provide more consistency in the quality of the audits, Verra needs a system to track key indicators of performance and identify areas that need strengthening. Also, to treat the root causes of issues, examples of which could be Verra needs to clarify rules, or a VVB needs specific training on specific elements where they need to assess conformance. The PMP, or the Performance Monitoring Program, is also that way to develop relationships with VVBs and provide support and training where needed. That helps keep Verra and VVBs accountable for our respective roles. So it was clear when the auditing and accreditation team was created, there was a need to implement this performance monitoring program as quickly as possible. However, it does take time to develop and launch these programs. This slide gives a brief overview of the roadmap of functions and tasks that have taken place to get us to what was the March 2024 release of the first VVB scorecards. When hiring and building out the team in late 2022 and early January, February 2023, work had already started on updating program rules, having some VVB webinars, introducing the ANA team and our objectives, building out some IT systems for auditing and accreditation purposes, and we conducted 10 performance observation audits to pilot that performance observation audit program. Work continued throughout 2023 to develop and consult with VVBs on the development of the performance monitoring program framework, which is the indicators and criteria we set out to monitor. Also to draft a policy to guide sanctioning VVBs if and where necessary, and to provide training to Verra staff on ISO greenhouse gas standards and how to conduct observation audits. Throughout this time, the ANA team began to collect data that would be needed to create the first version of the VVB scorecards. And we continue to deliver monthly trainings to VVBs on a variety of topics. So moving ahead into 2024, we'll be getting input from the VVBs and the accreditation bodies to refine the scorecard system and ensure buy-in from all parties so that when we launch the first official scorecards in Q1 of 2025, everyone will be on the same page about agreement with the format and the criteria and indicators in that scorecard. We'll be also focusing heavily on developing the accreditation program standards and, of course, continuing to support the VVBs with monthly trainings. So we'll now get into, I think, the meat of the matter of the presentation related to the VVB Performance Monitoring System scorecards. First, I'll give a short overview of the 6 key sections for what constitutes the VVB scorecard. Section 1 consists of scoring across 7 indicators that are drawn from regular project reviews that are conducted by Verra's VCS, SD, Sustainable Development, and Plastics Program Management Department staff. Section 2 consists of scoring across 5 indicators that are drawn from the Verra performance observation audits that we'll be conducting during site visits. Section 3 consists of scoring across 4 indicators that are drawn from what we're calling sanctions and cooperations, and which we'll discuss in a bit more detail on a few slides forward. Section 4 is at present only 1 indicator, but that represents feedback that we'll be obtaining from the VVB's accreditation bodies. Section 5 of the scorecard is simply a summary of the overall score from the previous 4 sections, all of the indicators combined. And then section 6 is a section where we Verra provide written commentary to the VVBs on their performance. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as mentioned, section 1 of the scorecard is the scoring from 7 indicators drawn from project reviews. Before reviewing these in more detail, I think it's important to remember that while Verra conducts reviews of projects and at program registration and verification requests, the review is to ensure that the VVB has appropriately assessed and fully described how it has assessed the project's conformance with the VCS program rules. The Verra project review does not replace validation or verification. Effectively, the project review is assessing if the VVB has identified all nonconformities the project may have had with the Verra program rules, and then ensured that the nonconformities were closed in order to then issue a positive statement of opinion. Keeping that in mind, let's look at the 7 indicators we've determined are important to monitor and why. So the first one that we are monitoring is the number of submissions that are denied during project review. Projects may be denied for a variety of reasons that are outlined in our program documents, some of them being poor quality documentation, or there have been VVB rule violations. So why would we want to monitor this? Verra has been regularly finding when reviewing report submissions that VVB reports or project documents submitted have not necessarily appropriately assessed or fully described how the VVB assessed the project's conformance with the VCS rules. So if the quality of the VVB report, the readability, the description of how the VVB has assessed conformance is lacking or poor, Verra is now denying those project requests and will not conduct a full review until the VVB submits a report that clearly describes how they've assessed all requirements for conformance to the Verra rules. The second indicator we're looking at is the average number of findings raised per submission. This is an important metric as it can serve as a reasonable proxy for the number of nonconformities that the VVB may not have identified during the audit. It also may indicate that the VVB simply has not described in the audit report how they assess conformance to the extent that it's readable to any external reader. In a perfect world, Verra would not identify any findings because the VVB would have fully assessed conformance and issued the nonconformities to the project, ensuring they were closed before the report was finalized and submitted by the project proponent. Of course, this is, not a perfect world. So we're tracking this because the number of findings may indicate the quality of the audit. For example, if there's a high number of findings, it may indicate that the VVB has not detected a high number of nonconformities that should have been detected during the audit. The third indicator is the number of recurring findings issued to a VVB. This was not measured and tracked during our preliminary or baseline scorecards that we just released, as we're still building out the IT systems to track this more effectively. But this is an important indicator to monitor, as it could indicate a variety of things. For example, that the VVB is somehow not adjusting or taking action to learn from previous reviews. So if we're consistently issuing the same finding, we would expect that there would be actions taken to address why that finding was originally issued. Or it could indicate that there's a problem with the Verra rule, that it's not clear. So VVBs are struggling to, assess conformance because we haven't done a great job of being clear in our rules. Regardless, when findings are recurring and continue to happen over and over, further investigation is needed to determine what intervention may be most appropriate to prevent the recurrence. The fourth finding, or the fourth indicator that we are tracking, is the rounds of review it takes for a VVB to close the findings. Again, in a perfect world, Verra would not identify findings, and so there would be 0 rounds of review to close them. But of course, reality is different. This indicator can serve as a proxy for VVB performance, where VVBs need more rounds of review to close findings that may indicate the VVB is struggling to effectively audit and or reassess how they audited and determine conformance. The fifth indicator is the number of projects a VVB audited that end up rejected. So a rejected project is then permanently ineligible, and it's ultimately a sign that the VVB may have failed to identify a nonconformity around a fundamental project requirement. And that project will never be able to be registered. So it should never have really come in for a registration request with that level of issue with the project not having been assessed by the VVB as conforming. And then the 6th and 7th indicators together are more about number of VVB rule violations. So this may be related to a project being denied, or the project may not have been denied, but there was still a rule violation from the VVB, which we want to track. And then the second indicator is the number of VVB submissions that were deemed to be overall poor quality. So both of those we feel are important to track because they are indications that the VVB is not adhering to specific VVB rules or still are not improving on the quality of the audit reports. So this slide will just quickly cover the performance observation audit indicators. And these are related to assessing the VVB audit planning process. So for example, did the VVB adhere to ISO audit planning requirements? Or did the VVB allocate an appropriate amount of time to do the audit? Has the VVB done sufficient sampling of maybe sites or of stakeholders? Were stakeholder consultations appropriately conducted? And a last example would be, are the VVBs assessing conformance for all project rules? The performance observation audit itself can be a very important and valuable source of feedback for the VV and for Verra, as we get to observe how the auditors are assessing our rules in reality. So these inputs coming out of the performance observation audit, these 5 will be good indicators to track and monitor as part of the overall scorecard. Next slide, please. So sections 3 and 4 of the scorecard are indicators related to tracking sanctions or other cooperation requests by Verra or the VVB's accreditation body. Other cooperation requests could be requests for specific project documentation for additional oversight activities. It could be requests for information around a potential perceived conflict of interest, or it could be information that the accreditation body has decided to conduct additional surveillance or oversight activities. So those are some key ones that we know could be defined, and we do want to track those and have those as part of the overall scoring system. Next slide, please. So now that we've kind of gone through all of the indicators, I wanted to use section 1, which is the project review indicators, to give an example of how the scorecard scoring actually works. So each indicator on the scorecard will be evaluated based on data from the evaluation period, for example, 12 months, against set nonconformity criteria. The VVB then gets a grade against the conformance criteria. For example, if they meet the criteria, it's green and they are graded and given a grade of 1. If they're red, they're not meeting expectations and they're given a grade of 0. And if they're above expectations, they would get a grade of 2. For example, when they're not evaluated, 1.3 was a criteria that we did not evaluate this year, then it would be 0. Indicators are also assigned a criticality, and then there's a weight related to that criticality. So if we've determined the indicator is important, it would have a weight of 10. If it was very important, it would be 20. If it was critically important, it would be 30. And then overall, each indicator is given a score, which is the grade value times the weight. And then the sum of all the scores is assessed against the potential full score a VVB would have if they met or exceeded all conformance. Next slide, please. And then this is just a visual snapshot of what the VVB actually sees on their scorecard for each indicator. So every indicator will have this type of presentation of a findings, and it lists the indicator, the conformity criteria, the date range of assessment, the data and or description of the data that was assessed and the VVB performance, and then whether or not the VVB met or did not meet or exceeded performance, and overall the score for that indicator. Next slide, please. So this slide is for illustrative purposes only. It is not indicative of actual results, but this is, while VVBs get individual scorecards, Verra will be able to assess VVB's performance ranking overall and or at the indicator level. So this is an ultimate outcome from this performance monitoring scorecard system, and that is the ability to analyze performance data and metrics and take actions accordingly, whether that be sanctions, trainings, rule updates, and also to determine what information will be useful to publish for stakeholders when considering which VVB they may want to contract with. So this slide summarizes the real next steps towards the release of the first public VVB scorecards in Q1 of 2025. Currently, we've delivered the baseline scorecards, which is like the pilot scorecard, and we are meeting with the VVBs one-to-one to discuss these results, review them, get feedback from the VVBs and also from the accreditation bodies. We'll take all that and we'll be refining and revising the scorecards and continue to assess results at a more granular level. This is the first attempt at a high level. We know we need to get more granular into some of the data and how we report on it. We'll continue to monitor these indicators during the next upcoming evaluation period, and we'll take actions if and where needed in between now and the first public scorecard. We're also going to determine what information will be made publicly available for the first official scorecard in Q1 of 2025. And we're going to continue to make the scorecard move towards a dynamic scorecard and evaluate other uses for it. So by dynamic, meaning that at any moment in time, a VVB and or a stakeholder would be able to see what the VVB score is. And then to evaluate other uses, perhaps the VVB performance or scoring of indicators, it will be useful to help with risk-based approaches to project reviews or internal decisions on allocating resources. Next slide, please. And this is our last slide. So launching the performance monitoring program was a key milestone for Verra. And of course, we need to ensure that it is an effective program. So that, brings us to ask, what would success look like? We'll have the data to track and analyze performance over time. And we'll also want to ensure that the performance monitoring program provides VVBs with a clearer understanding of our expectations around performance. It also needs to provide a clearer means of accountability for Verra and VVB, and we would want success to have results in improved quality of audits and or reporting. We'd also expect to see a corresponding decrease in project review time as the number of findings and the rounds of findings decrease during project reviews. Success includes regular, meaningful training for VVBs to help meet those expectations of performance. And lastly, increased market confidence in the VVBs and the integrity of Verra's projects would mean success. So that concludes this presentation, and thank you very much for your time today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Janice, for that presentation. Just a reminder to everybody, you can type in your Q&A questions at any time. I already see a number of your questions in the Q&A. I also noticed a few hands go up. Just as a reminder, because we have so many people online with us today, we aren't going to be taking any live questions. So if you do have questions, please do type them into the Q&A, and we will get to those after our next presentation. So for our second and last deep dive of the day, I'm going to hand the floor over to Cassio, and he is our Director of the Program Secretariat at Verra, and he is going to be discussing the stakeholder support team.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Hillary. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cassio Souza. I'm currently Director for Program Secretariat at Verra. It's very nice to be here today to be able to share with you these achievements and, well, the deep dive on the stakeholder support team. So the Program Secretariat is divided into sub-teams, and the stakeholder support team is one of them. As you know, it's one of the commitments we have made as part of the new era for Verra Vision. So what actually does it mean then? How do we translate this in practice, right? So the vision that we have for the stakeholder support team is a team that facilitates the journey of the stakeholder on whatever topics that our project is specific. So we envision to be a consistent point of contact when answering your questions or doubts about project-related matters. With that, our goal obviously is to increase responsiveness, clarity, coherence of the project-related interactions between Verra and stakeholders and you, aiming for enhanced stakeholder service and satisfaction. And here's how we're going to do it. So we want to ensure that emails are responded on time. We want to provide a consistent point of contact We want to improve communication channels as to enhance your experience as much as possible. And as much as possible, also reducing language barriers. You will see a lot of this specific term, project specific or project related, and we will explain what it means in practice throughout this presentation. Thank you. So there are 5 actions I'd like to highlight as the main ones we have taken since January, when we formally introduced this team to you, when we formally launched this team. So the first one is that since then, we increased the dedicated capacity to deal with the questions related to projects. In January, we started with 3 people. We are now expanding it to 5 people, and we now cover 3 languages in our team: English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And we also welcome messages in these languages in case it makes you feel more comfortable to express your doubts, your concerns. We are able to handle those as well. Point number 2, I can highlight that we eliminated the email backlog that we were facing in the beginning of the year. I can happily share that we are totally on top of emails now. You will see that we have responded a huge number of messages so far, obviously processing all unaddressed messages from the end of 2023 and in the course of 2024. Which brings us to the point number 3 in the center of the slide. We established a 3 business day service level agreement to respond your messages, right? We have been observing this SLA for basically all the messages that we receive. Although we may not be able to close or resolve your inquiry within 3 days, at least in 3 days, we'll receive an answer from us saying we are on it, we are working on it. That's basically how we are dealing and processing the messages within this time frame. You also know that we launched the Stakeholder Contact Form tool, which is a service that we use to collect questions from registered stakeholders within Verra. That means they have an account in our Verra registry to steer their questions directly to the most suitable team to answer. As you know, there are many teams at Verra. They work with different topics, different things. We will see more about that very shortly. But the overall objective is to reduce the time we spend forwarding these emails among internal teams. This ensures that you will have a response as fast as possible. This tool is live for about 3 months now, I believe, and we are testing whether this is something you find useful. That is why we have more than one way to contact the stakeholder support team, which we will obviously discuss a little further. And finally, I would like to highlight point number 5, that we've implemented a few tweaks in the Project Hub so we can provide you with a little bit more transparency on project review data, as means to reduce the need to email the stakeholder support team to ask key information from you, such as the status of your project and where it is in the process. I can highlight that we also published the SLAs, the processing averages, estimated completion date more recently, per stages, and clear status groups or stages if you prefer, so you can see the movements along the project review. So those were the main 5 actions I'd like to highlight that we took since January with the launching of the team. Next slide, please. So let's put some numbers in this impact, right? So I would like to highlight 3 main things here. First one is that we acknowledge pretty much every message that we receive within 3 business days. As I said, if you send a message to us, in 3 business days, you will receive your answer or a message basically saying we are on it, we are working on it, we are getting the answer, and we'll get back to you. Just to put some numbers, more than 9,500 emails and more than 300 contact forms have been responded so far in 2024. That data is accurate until Monday, April 22nd. Just to have an idea, in April, only in April, more than 1,600 emails were received and responded. And last week, precisely 508. So it's a huge influx of emails. that we are working on a daily basis, and we are happy to share that we have been able to cope with the rhythm of the questions and addressing these questions or these emails in at least 3 days. Of all these emails and forms that we receive, a little less than half of it we are able to close and resolve within 3 days. The other half, obviously, we need a bit more time to resolve due to the complexity of the issues raised. Some are about, I don't know, methodologies doubts, doubts about how we are going to apply new requirements of the programs. Obviously, in these very, very specific situations, we need a little bit more time to clear that and give you the answer you need. Next slide, please. Fine. So how can this team help me? That may be the question that you guys are questioning. So what I can say is that you remember that I mentioned project specific, like this, right? This term, and that means that your question, that the questions in scope of the stakeholder support team are questions related to an existing project ID. That means it is in our scope to answer. Examples of these questions that are in the scope of the stakeholder support team may be, what is the my project review status, or what is the project review status of my project, or what are the next review steps, what comes next after step X or Y. My request got denied and I'm not sure how to proceed, or I received this public comment and I'm not sure how to address. So all these things related to procedural stages of the project review, we can help you with and support you with an answer. In a nutshell, if you have, if this is related to a project ID, it is in our scope to help you. And again, just highlighting, we may not be able to resolve your question off the bat, but obviously it's our job to get in contact with the right team to resolve it for you. Next slide, please. And it is important to remember that still in this scope discussion, not all questions are in the scope of the stakeholder support team. We have other communication channels for specific platforms, such as I can highlight here registry or methodologies in case you are a methodology developer, or in case you are VVB, the auditing team that Janice has represented brilliantly today. And also, in case of new project proponents and people who are looking for information about Verra, general information, we also have the info team ready to support you. I recommend you have a look at the contact page for Verra, for the different contact points and the different topics and themes you may get in touch with us about. And I say that because that helps us processing your message faster. So if you identify which is the team that will be able to work with your question, obviously we can process it faster. So there's no need to send it to multiple teams or multiple individuals. If you do that, obviously you're adding time for your query to be solved. So kindly select your team, send your message, and obviously we'll take it from there. And in any case, if you are unsure where to send your query or where to send your message to, the stakeholder support team is there to assist you. We will find the right people, the right team for you, and obviously we are happy to support you with that. So just send us your message, and we'll be happy to support. So how to contact us then? So that's maybe the main question, right? So how do you contact the stakeholder support team? There are very easy 2 ways to do that. So you can either send an email to secretariat@verra.org. In case you choose that option, you have to indicate your project ID in the email title. That allows us to find your information and take it from there. Or you can use the stakeholder contact form, which is available in the Project Hub. I put the link so you can have a direct link to access the form. Just remember that for that, you require an account in the Verra registry. Either ways are fine. Both ways you will get to the stakeholder support team. We will be dealing with both messages received in either of the channels within the 3 days SLA. You don't need to do both though. You can choose either emailing or using the form. It's sufficient. It reaches us in due time. Next slide, please. So just as a closure, I'd like to give you a little taste of what is coming next for the stakeholder support team. It's a very new team, and we have been around for 3 months, maybe a little more than that. And there's a lot of analysis on the communications and processes, how we can further improve it, make it faster, make it better. There's a lot of effort and thought being put into it. And fundamentally, what we can say is, obviously, we want to continue abiding to the 3 business days SLA to answer your messages. That's the very minimum. We have made improvements there, and you can expect more of it in terms of addressing your messages. We also want to explore how to create opportunities for proactive communication with you. So, putting in simple terms, how we can anticipate your questions, specifically about the statuses, next steps on the review process. And obviously that touches in point number 3, which is creating materials to help you navigate through the different program aspects, the different program stages, and the review processes as well. And based on what you share with us, that's the final point, based on your feedback, based on the opinions you share with us, as much as possible, we want to propose corrections, improvements to Verra Project Hub, to optimize your experience, to make it an even more useful tool for you in your journey with Verra. I really would like to thank you so much for the opportunity for being here and sharing these achievements and plans. I hope you have experienced some of these improvements. And what I can say is that our team is committed to deliver the best service possible to you. I feel personally excited to work on it. And I hope you were able to, as I said, to have experienced these improvements. Certainly there's more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cassio, and thank you again, Janice, for those 2 very in-depth updates. So just quickly before we go into the Q&A, I just want to sum up kind of 3 points that we've covered today in our webinar. First, we are making progress on all commitments under the new era for Verra, even those that we didn't cover in depth today. We just covered the 2 today, but there will be a detailed written update on all of the commitments that's posted to our website just a little later today. Second, we have revolutionized our engagement with VBBs by standardizing how we evaluate them, how we report their performance, and providing training and more clarity on what is expected of them. And third, our stakeholder support team is now officially up and running and responding to an impressive 500 queries a week. As Cassio said, it's a new team. It's still very much underdeveloped. There's still many more improvements coming. Thank you for your patience and your feedback while we continue to improve that service function. So with that, I'm going to kick off the Q&A. We just have 10 minutes, so a little bit less time than we usually have, but if you type your question into the chat, even if we don't get to it live, we will respond to you afterwards. So please, even if we don't get to you, please go ahead and type in your question and we'll respond later via email. But without further ado, let me just get started with the first question here. Let's see. Let's do this one. This is for you, Janice. Are there plans for capacity building for VBBs or accrediting new VBBs as another opportunity to reduce bottlenecks?
Great question. I think it's safe to say that we recognize that there is a need for more VBBs throughout the market, not just with Verra, but there's a shortage of actors in the system still. And additionally, I think the experience building, the capacity building with the VBBs and building up the expertise within the existing pool of VBBs is an ongoing process, and will take time to build up the skills and competencies so that the audits, maybe result in less rounds of findings and go further, and everybody is sort of operating at a more efficient level. We have not made concrete actions or taken concrete actions to actively recruit new VBBs at this time, and that's primarily because we want to develop our accreditation program rules and get those out by the end of this year, which will have much more clearly defined requirements for VBBs around competency, around training, et cetera, so that when we do onboard new VBBs, we've got some really good, clear upfront training requirements that need to be met and developed and met before we onboard the VBBs. Secondly, I do know that there are, a wave of VBBs that are going through their ISO accreditations. So knowing that there are more VBBs coming into the system and balancing that out with getting our own rules published first are kind of the first steps before we start actively marketing for more VBBs.
Great. All right, while you're in the hot seat, here's another question for you. The verification process can take months, and project developers need more certainty on timing for issuance, not less. How will Verra ensure that the scorecard does not unfairly penalize the project developer in the event that the VCS conformance failures are with the VBB and not the project?
Great question. So the scorecard itself should not impact the timing of the project review process. The scorecard is an assessment of indicators that are assessment of criteria and indicators that come out of a project review or come out of a performance observation audit. So the scorecard is compiled afterwards based on input from project reviews. I hope that helps. And I think just to add on to that, it will be hopeful that the VBB scorecards would, if anything, be able to improve the actual timing in some circumstances, the timing of the reviews, if we're able to use certain scores to, again, maybe feed into a risk-based scoring system where VBBs that are scoring well in certain indicators related to certain methodologies, maybe don't need to go through a full project review. This is, hypothetical. We're not there at all yet, but the intent would be that it would be a tool to help improve efficiency.
Great. All right. Thank you, Janice. We're getting a lot of very niche questions, which is great. I'm not sure if we have the experts on the panel to answer some of these, but I'm going to read this answer out. And if any one of our panelists has an answer to it, please volunteer yourself. So this anonymous attendee said, thank you for this informative webinar. As we aim to abide by all Verra process requirements, can you please clarify whether NOVS form shall be submitted 15 business days ahead of the announcement of validation or verification services, or 15 days ahead of the site visit opening meeting?
Okay, I can try to take that one. So I'm just going to recap it here. Shall clarify whether the notice form shall be submitted 15 business days ahead of the commencement of the okay, so it's intended to be 15 business days ahead of the site visit opening meeting. The intent of the notice form is to notify the auditing and accreditation team of an upcoming site visit so that we may choose to attend that as part of the performance observation audit program. So what we're looking at is 15 days notice in advance of the site visit opening meeting.
Great. All right, now I have a two-parter for you, Janice. In Q1 2025, you will offer the list of VBBs that pass the score, but how are you going to obtain the scorecard for new VBBs?
Good question. So having gone through our pilot process, we actually did parse out new VBBs and or VBBs that had low levels of activity, and we looked at them separately. That doesn't mean that we didn't produce a scorecard, but we acknowledge that there's a very low number of projects and data to feed into scoring. So it's, you don't have a large data set sample on which to base your scoring. We will continue to apply metrics. For example, if a VBB only had 3 project submissions in the past year, we would look at that as a very limited set of data, but we would still also pull out the metrics and have a conversation with the BVB about how they're scoring and take action if needed. I mean, if all 3 projects were rejected, that would indicate something significant, even though they're a new BVB. I hope that answers that question.
And then there's a second part to that. I find it necessary to include in your assistance to stakeholders the option to have clarifying meetings as another way of supporting stakeholders, since writing correspondences is not always good enough to support technical gaps in methodologies or tools. It's more of a comment, but I don't know if you want to say anything to that.
I think I can comment back on that, just that that's probably more of a program management team, the team VCS teams and the project review teams that are often involved in having to make that decision on having calls with project proponents and with VVBs at the same time. I don't think I can answer beyond that, but I know it's something that is constantly, decisions are being made on when that can happen all the time.
Great. Okay. And then one more for you, Janice. Thank you, Janice. Helpful answers regarding VVB scorecard. Can you please confirm if it is public facing and can therefore be taken into account as part of the developer request for quotation process?
Good question. I think what I would say, I'm not sure if it can be taken into account for quotation process, because each quotation process is, a function of the VVB themselves. They have their methods for setting up their quotations. What I hope would be helpful is that we will publish metrics that stakeholders, project proponents can look at and then have a dialogue with the VVBs that they're seeking quotes from around those metrics. An example may be you're looking at 2 VVBs and one has, on average goes through 2.5 rounds of review for their projects. And that would then, likely result in a longer project review time. You may want to have that conversation between the VVBs or not around which one is taking longer or going through more rounds of review, and see if they want to negotiate their pricing based on that, I guess.
Let's see. We are at the very end of our time here, so I think I am going to wrap up. There are a few questions we haven't gotten to yet. I apologize. We will type an answer to you or get back to you via email. But I do want to thank Janice and Cassio again for not only your great presentations, but also for answering a lot of these questions live and also in writing. Just as a reminder for everyone on the call today, we will have another stakeholder update webinar on July 24th. That's the next one. You can already register for that, and we hope to see you there. And just as a fun way to end the webinar, I can't leave without saying happy birthday week to Judith Simon. Happy birthday, Judith. And we will get back to those that we didn't get back to, but I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And thank you for joining us.
Hey everyone.